All right, hey everyone, Josh here, and today I have Shannon in Colorado Springs. She's just been hired and she's got a pretty awesome story, so I got to share that with you. Shannon, started off by telling us just a little bit about your background so people can kind of figure out like who is Shannon. Shannon, I want to know a little bit about her background before she started.
Yeah, absolutely. So, strangely enough, I've actually been a dental hygienist for the past 3 years, and I kind of hit my plateau on that. I was looking for the next step. I'm always trying to keep learning and improving and getting there. And I kind of realized, for as amazing as healthcare is, and you're helping people, it's not going to give me that satisfaction. So that's kind of what lured me into the whole sales situation. So I was originally looking into pharmaceutical sales and medical sales. But the more stuff, like I actually have a couple connections in that didn't seem like it was going to be a good fit for me. And so that's why I started searching around in the software sales. And the more and more I researched into it, I totally realized it was everything about I'm a techie. Like I love the change. I love the people on it. And so it seemed like an easy switch for me.
All right. Hey, I'm just curious though, because you made a good comment. You realized that it wasn't a good fit for you. And so for some people, it's understanding like, yeah, what do they want and what's a good fit for them? Do you mind sharing like what made you realize that you didn't really want to go for pharma?
I mean, like I said, I've been in the healthcare for so long.
Yep.
I've dealt with enough doctors in my life.
Yep.
Just kind of the whole tailoring thing there. And there's a lot of stuff that, like for software sales, you're develop these things and it's really, really cool and you could better a company and it's pretty easy to find something you can stand behind.
Yep.
But in pharmaceutical sales, with that being such a niche, as you're kind of clawing your way up that ladder, one, how the system's set up, and two, like you might be selling a product relating to something that might not even be good. And you have to like force it and make people believe like, oh yeah, this product's going to help you, but really it won't. It's going to give you cancer. And you have to, you know what I mean? And like, that was really, really hard for my morals.
Yep.
So that's why I was like, get out of here.
I get that. Yeah. It's kind of, you don't always, be able to, you can't always sell a product that you definitely believe in because of things are always changing in the market. I get that. Well, the reason I also asked too is I was going over in a previous call earlier today, we were talking about some of the numbers of what's the hourly rates for some of these other positions. And software sales is like 48, pharma is around 31 if you take it the US averages. But the problem is software, or not with software, but with pharma is you're normally, even though that's the hourly rate, you're normally working way more than 40 hours a week for most pharma reps that I talk to. They're always traveling. So it's like really, if you're working 50 or 60 hour weeks, that drops the hourly rate down, whereas software sales, they've got a balance. Like you don't clock in more than 40 hours because if you do, you're doing something wrong. Like your sales manager needs to figure out why do you take longer to do just the basic quota that everyone else is hitting. So it's like, it's also that work-life balance. So thanks for sharing that perspective. All right. You found pre-hired when you were actually looking about pharma or other opportunities. What drew you, and you explain why you wanted to do software sales. Why pre-hired? Or what were you thinking when you found us?
Well, I totally thought you were a scam, like immediately.
All right. Oh.
And so I was like, all right, yeah, whatever, too good to be true, and like passed it. And I don't know what's up with your algorithm, but y'all wouldn't leave me alone. I just like, as soon as I looked at it, that thing was popping up left and right. So I was like, fine. And so I started researching into it. And of course I did all the digging, like any scam sites, anything there, like, and the only thing that would pop up is the fact that you like would have to pay for it in some part. So I was like, okay, like any filter I put through, I was like, okay, I seem safer then. And so I literally just like set up an appointment with Lael.
Yep.
And I didn't realize it was so much of you guys interviewing me because I was handling it so much as I was interviewing you, because I've already spent, like, I have my bachelor's, I got my associates for hygiene. Like, I'm not going to be going back to school and wasting money on stuff unless it's going to, like, guarantee me next step I'm over it. So
Yep.
I had to make sure it was going to be valuable and worth my time and money. And he went above and beyond answering all the questions. And then he even, like, brought some ones in there about, like, work-life balance, what I'm looking for, like, kind of solidifying what I could be doing with, like, the software sales rather than pharma sales. And the biggest thing, he asked me, and he's like, right now, like, why wouldn't you be a good, successful salesperson? I told him, I'm like, right now I'm an expert in my field. You can ask me any single dental question that you want, and I can give you like a 10-page PowerPoint presentation on it, like off the top of my head. But I don't know how to use CRMs. I don't know how to do all these things. I don't know how to be a competent salesperson. So like, yeah, I'd be hired because I'm a great talker, but like until you know how to do your job, you're useless. And he like laid out the entire format for the plan and like how the program's set up and what you guys do and how to tailor around there. And it was like not even a second thought. I'm like, here, take my money, Leo, go away.
All right, man, that is awesome. So you mentioned, yeah, he laid it out kind of like the plan, what it would be like going through the program. So that was your experience, like doing what we call our admissions interview, because like, yeah, you're looking to see if we're for real and if we're a fit, and at the same time, we're looking to find, are you a fit? Because it's a relationship where we pick the people we want to work with, and you're picking the best way to get the job that you want. So it goes both ways. So we both, yeah, Lael, you are on the same page. Now, when you're in the program, what was that like? So you actually got into the content, you started going through it. What were your thoughts about getting through it and mastering science-based sales?
So I liked how it was set up, like in the online portion of it. You know, I'm working a full-time hygiene job, so I don't have time to dedicate all this. But I mean, even with that, and I took 2 vacations, I got through everything in a month. You know what I mean? And how it was broken down was like really effective. So I don't know, it probably took a lot of times for you to get through it all. It's actually kind of funny, like talking to you now, because I've been watching you on video for so long. um, but like I said, I've been through so much school, and sometimes stuff is just not set up efficiently to learn. It's a waste of time. You get frustrated. You're like, well, why'd you say this word? I don't know what this word is. Like, what is this supposed to be? And then so like you basically like started like a very simple skeleton and like laid it all out. And then from there, I already had this base knowledge. So when you started getting into more of like the application of what we need to be doing and like diving down deep into it, you already have this base stuff down there. The only frustrating part for me is like once we got into HubSpot, I like learned all about it, and then they released the beta and it changed everything on it. So I was like, no, I had to like reteach myself everything on there.
I remember that too, because, and that's the thing about software for anyone watching is hopefully like once you get a product, they don't make too many updates, but they did a major update with HubSpot. Luckily though, the update was mostly cosmetic and user interface. So it's not like the core functionalities had changed. It's just the placement of where you go is different. And so for anyone listening, so what it means is you have a workflow that you follow, and you just have to like, now you don't know where the buttons are to click. You just have to learn where to click next time, but the function stays the same. But I love the new beta now. Like, well, it's not beta anymore. It's now.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
It makes so much more sense now that I have like 3 views, like, and there's like all these, yeah, it just makes it more, I actually timed it. It's actually faster for me to like get to another screen or to add a deal note and then go back and forth, change it. Like it's much faster now. So I actually got our guys to time that. So, all right. Thanks for saying that, by the way, because people don't say that enough, but I'm very meticulous when it comes to how to train people. And because I've realized this is what I really believe. And this, I guess, maybe I don't think I've told you this yet, Shannon, but for you and for others listening, I really believe that almost anyone who's determined to learn something can learn almost anything if it's broken down into enough bite-sized pieces. So that's the way that we need to learn. A lot of people need to learn is you give a concept, you give a big picture, and then you say, now let's go and dive deep on the first part of that, and then dive deep, and then say, okay, now this last part connects to the next part. Let's talk about that. And if you just make it like digestible, like easy to understand and break, because you can take something super complicated. If you've got someone that knows what they're doing and is a good trainer, you can break it down into pieces that makes it easy for people to learn. So that's the one thing that I've also found in the educational field is a lot of people know so much. They're so smart on different topics, but it doesn't matter if they're super smart if they can't like convey that to another person in an easy way for them to understand and then to actually learn it and master it as well. So thank you for saying that. I don't get that enough. They don't, but yes, I would, and I guess I'm actually saying this because by nature, I am not meticulous. I had to force myself to learn this to be a good salesperson. And that's one thing that you'll find as you get on the job for anyone listening. And also it's in the program, it talks about like what's your personality style, because you're going to have natural strengths and weaknesses. And I know that from Shannon, this is our first time, like you said, getting to talk together. I can already like, okay, she's definitely high influence on the DISC profile. So she's a great communicator. She's going to charm a lot of people that she talks with. She's going to be very, like, people are going to like talking to her. But I also know, because that's one of my primaries, our weaknesses are organization skills. Like that's something that if we're not naturally good at, but we can get better at over time. Like that's something that's like forced from the job or circumstances that make us good at these other areas that normally come with the territory of having a strength. There's a yin to the yang. So That's
Yeah, I mean, my planner is sitting on top of the giant pile of papers on my desk right now, so it's balance.
yes. Like, and that's exactly right. Like I have my calendar, like, and I have to force myself to get my tasks into my calendar. And but once I do, like, that's the key too. I'm gonna so I didn't plan on doing like these training tidbits, but you brought it out, Shannon. So I'm going to say it to anyone listening here is, the key to being really good at sales is understanding your strengths, but also your weaknesses and making sure that you can make up for them in some way. Some people try to say like, just like ignore your weaknesses and get really, really good at your strengths. But the problem is a lot of times you still have to have like those other parts to do your job well. So you don't need to master the other parts, but you do need to get them to a point where you accept this is a weakness. So who or what can cover those weaknesses in like getting tools, planners, apps. Like I have apps for like stuff to keep me on track. And that's just a tidbit for anyone, listening, if you can relate. If you're on the opposite side, you're like, you may be steady or compliant. You're very meticulous and you're always the first thing's like, tell me the details. What's the data? You don't go to the stories first. You go to the data. You're like, screw people. Let me look at the process first. It's on the flip side. You need to, get a hold of like the people side of it too. There's always a strength and weakness. All right. So end rant on sales stuff. Get back to the program though. You've went through it. It was easy for you to go through. And then ultimately though, you liked it, but doesn't matter if you liked it if you didn't get results. So what was kind of the results of you going through science-based sales and then getting these job offers that you're going for?
So me personally, I feel like I had really good results. I mean, I still had a dental hygiene job when I was going into the whole actual like job search part of it. So I really took the time to like research companies, research what they were about, what their job was going to be. And so I ended up applying to about 20 jobs. I only got 2 people that didn't respond to me at all. And then I declined everybody. And towards the end, I was fighting between 2 and then finally decided on the one I took.
All right, we're going to have to repeat that slowly for everyone because you just said something that most people are like, whoa, what? Like you just made, because as I'm listening to you, Shannon, I'm like, you said that as just a matter of fact, like that's normal for you, but that's not normal for everyone listening right now. You contacted 20 companies that you picked that you want to work at. And how many of them got back to you and wanted to talk to you and interview you?
18.
So guys, if you do the math, that's like 95% or 90% of the companies that she talked to wanted to interview her. That is insane. Now, I will go ahead and say that because, again, everyone listening knows I like averages. I like math. I don't like to sell some pipe dream. Her results are like among the best in our program. So good job, Shannon. Pat yourself on the back. Normally, people get around 50%. One out of every 2 companies you want to work at will invite you for an interview, but Shannon like killed it at like 90% or a little above that. So now out of that, what happened? So you had all these people like request to get you on their calendars and interview, and then what happened from there?
Well, first off, I think that might be the only thing that the program didn't prep me enough for. Just how different your interviews are compared to like normal stuff. So first off, the pro, like I'm wearing pajama pants right now and nobody would know because I'd have a really nice blouse on. But just how it's set up, it went really well. And like, luckily there was interview prep. Like when you go through the program towards the end, there's a certification process of it. And like, you have to prove that you know how to do it and everything else. And then at the end, like these are sales questions. There'll be personal questions. There'll be sales like related questions, even things like you wouldn't even think about, and they make you answer them all. And it's kind of cool, like how they train you on how to be interviewing interviewers at the same time that they're doing it with you. And so you had that, but then I got better over time. You know what I mean? Like my first couple interviews, I was like words, like here's the things there. And then slowly you get more comfortable with it. But for the most part, there was a couple like right away, I was just like, we won't be a good fit. And I think that was a good part about the program. Like they said, there's so many different versions of what you're going to be doing that it's pretty easy to be like, oh, I don't want to do that. Like, I'm definitely not the person. I don't want to go 5 days a week, 8 to 6, and like stare at you in a cubicle while I'm doing my job. I don't want to do that. And so it was pretty easy. Like if their job posting didn't explain that, I can get that out right away. And I'm like, I won't be a good fit for you. I won't be happy. You won't be happy. Let's move on. And then from there, it was kind of cool because as you figured out the fit, or as I figured out the fit, once I got down to my final 2, it was actually like a negotiation situation. Like I was very honest being like, I have 2 offers that I'm like on stage for, I've already done projects for, like submitted a bunch of stuff. And so I'm like, I don't like, my biggest thing is there's some people that are just trying to look for the next step. Like, I'm going to get into sales, get whatever job I want. And then a year, I want to find the next big thing. And like, cause it's about money and what's going to be best for you.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I really wanted something that like I could invest in, that I wouldn't be leaving in the next year. Like, I plan on being there. Obviously stuff can fail, whatever, and stuff can change. But my plan going in was, I was like, I'm going to be stuck with you for the next 2 to 5 years. So let's make that worthwhile. And so that was like the biggest thing, that I was able to use my training from pre-hired and just my personality, and got to the point where I finally was like, all right, it's like The Bachelor, like, I choose you, or whatever.
Right. That's a flip. Most people are used to being chosen, and then you have the power and you have control of doing the choosing. And that's what makes sales fun. And what's so fun too is, at least I think, this is now my opinion, is that works not just in interviews, but on a level it works in sales calls. Because most people feel like when the buyer says do this, you just are supposed to say, yes, of course, I'll whatever you want. But no, like, good salespeople know that the customer is not always right. We're there to help. And sometimes it means they don't know the right questions to ask. They don't know what they need. And we give them that, because we are the ones in the trenches every day, talking to other companies in their field, talking about the issues they have. And so if they're not willing to like listen, and you can't help them, then it's not gonna be a good relationship. Because again, it is a relationship. Even if they're buying you a product, if they can't listen to you and when you're trying to explain how you could help, and because they're not trying to buy something for the feature, for the product itself, they're trying to solve some issue. Normally, as in businesses, it's normally to make more money, to cut down on cost, or to increase productivity. Those are normally the three goals that a software product fills the gap for. It's one of those three things. So they're looking for solutions, not for a product. So yeah, if they can't listen to you, or if they're gonna be hard to work with, they're a bad customer, and you can just be like, you know what, this is probably not gonna work. So yeah, we do the choosing as salespeople just as much as they do. So that's the thing that I want to make clear too in this video is I just realized, man, this is such good stuff. Some of this is actually in the training, Shannon, you probably remember, is you never, the person you're talking to is the buyer. They're not above you, but you're not above them either. You are peers, and you're just trying to solve challenges. But if they ever treat you like you're less than, or I'm going to tell you how this is going to go, and you're just going to do it, you just, no, that's not how this works. And if you want that, go to another company. And normally that dominant style, because I said dominant style on the disc profile for that buyer, they'll actually respect you for doing that. And then they will open up normally and say, well, what do you recommend? But you have to match that. No, that's not what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen, because I have a process I follow, because I know how to help companies just like yours. If you're not willing to listen, go to another company that's willing just to listen to you, and then you can come back when that fails. Like, that's fun in sales, when you have control. And that's what stresses salespeople out, is when they have no control, it's chaos, and they feel like they're at the whim of every buyer. So when you understand that it's mutual choosing and you have control, sales is so much fun.
That was like one thing that related to me with my dental hygiene background. Like, I have a bunch of other hygienists that would come up to me and kind of be like, how do you get patients to like do what you say? Like, they'll agree to your treatment or whatever it is. I was like, I'm honest with them. I'm like, listen, like, I'm the expert here. Your face is rotting. This is what we got to do to fix it. Do you want it or not? And they're like, okay. And so like, that's pretty much all it is. Like, don't talk, like, they don't know. So you just got to tell them what they don't know, and then work on a situation together, go there. And so like, the more and more sales stuff I was learning, I'm like, wow, this is very applicable.
So Shannon, after you did all of this stuff, tell us about the company you chose, and why you chose it, or what that's like.
Should I say the name? Am I allowed to say the name on
here?
Yeah,
you can say the name, because you're not revealing any confidential information. Actually, anyone watching this video is only going to promote the company, because you've got good things to say about them, because you work there, right? So yeah, you're fine. Okay,
so the company I chose was Quincia.io. It's actually a career service platform that we target mostly universities right now. So there's a couple things that like really drew it, like what they do. So, when you're going through college, and then all of a sudden you go into your senior advisor, and they're like, oh, you have 20 more credits you didn't know existed. And you're like, awesome. So you're struggling through that. And then by the time you graduate, you have no idea what you're supposed to do. And that was just a really good time. Now you're not stressed out at all. And now you're serving again. It basically integrates the students like from an easy like beginning, freshman, sophomore, and then as they develop into their own human being of what they want, it grows with the students and helps out the administrative part of it. So like, you're not wasting any time with all this side stuff. Like, you can go in one-on-one with your advisor being like, these are my problems, or these are my concerns, and it's more tailored and personal. Then from there, like, they have a bunch of growth. So they're a startup company. It's 100% remote.
Hmm.
Like, and their group is so diverse. Like there's a couple people in different countries, like everyone is scattered around the US. And so I kind of really liked that for like
Mm-hmm.
a life balance part of it. Like my family's scattered around the country. So if I see a cheap ticket, I can go work for my sister's living room
Yep.
and then we can hang out over the weekend. And so that was really important to me. And then with the startup, just seeing how they've progressed as a company and going, and then just hearing the university's feedback, like I didn't feel like a used car salesman. I felt like something that was really helping people, and then it's going to keep growing with me. And then just the stuff they have planned there, I was like, this is so exciting. Like these people are super nice. Like it got to the point where I actually almost turned it down. And I want to like stress this enough because in the training, they're like, always have your interviews. And like, and I had questions, but I didn't really realize the questions that were important to me. You know what I mean? I was still just trying to get through the interview, and I almost turned it down. I went with the other company that there, and the guy literally like hit me back up, and he was like, I need to talk to you and figure out your reasons why. And so I'm like, okay, so at this point, like I kind of already was like, well, I don't want to work here. And so I just laid it all out being like, this is what I didn't agree with. These are the things I was questioning on, like blah, blah, blah. And he was like, so he is Indian. So he has like a little bit of communication barrier.
Mm.
And so once we both just like took off all the fuzz, you know what I mean? Then we were just like on it, here to go. And then, so that's what stress, ask the questions. Like, it's not a stupid question. Ask the question to make sure you get the right job, because I totally almost blew it and didn't get the one that really would have been good for me. And so just all that, all the good things.
Yeah, that's true. Like you've got to ask the right questions that are important to you, not just answering their questions. Because if they're the only ones asking questions, they're choosing you, or you're not in the process of choosing. So the fact that, yeah, you have the questions you know that are important to you, to knowing if it's the right hire. And some of the questions, you know, probably a lot of them people aren't going to know, like listening to this video, because they're very sales specific things that you might not have thought about, like how big is the sales team, what's the growth structure like, promotion track, what's the pay, what's quota, how many, like there's so many things to ask to understand, is this a good bet, is this a good investment of my time, can I get what I want out of this relationship? Because ultimately that's what it's about. It's about alignment. And I love how you said earlier, Shannon, it's like, yeah, I got to do what's best for me. It is about the money. Like life is not just like, you can't love money. And this is what I even tell people all the time. You can't love money, but you view money as a tool. It's better to have it than not have it. So in sales, we choose sales normally because we want to make more money than doing something else. So if you're going to do it, be in software, by the way. So you do sales to make more money. And then you understand that it's a tool. And also that if you need to make more, or if you want something else out of the job that you're in, then if it no longer is in alignment with your goals, if the company you're at is no longer in alignment with goals, that's when you part ways mutually and they give you a great reference and you go find the next step. That's what it should be like. The company goals and your goals have to always be in alignment. If anytime your goals are not in alignment and you're going off in a different direction, that's when you part ways. And that's only comes about when you ask good questions.
Right.
So Shannon, last thing before we head out is, people have been listening to your story. They've probably watched some other ones on our site or elsewhere. What advice would you give someone who's on the fence? They've been thinking about software sales, but they just maybe are too nervous to do change because they're comfortable with where they're at. Just what advice would you have to someone considering this?
I mean, that's always a hard question because you got to be ready for change, which no one ever truly is. But what drove me was, like I said, like I love my career in hygiene and everything else, and I could have done that. Like if we want to talk money, I was making $70,000 a year, which is nothing to scoff at. You know what I mean? But I didn't want to look back and being like, wow, I wish I made that change when I'm 26 now. Like I couldn't imagine being 40, being like, well, this was good enough for a long time, but now what do I do? Like, I really wish I went back and did it now. You know what I mean? Now I'm making a lateral shift again. Like, yeah, software sales is good money. This first company, like I'm in that range that you talk about, that 60 to 80. And then next year I'll be making over 100,000. And the fact is like, yeah, it's scary, but just do it, because once you get out of your comfort zone, that makes you grow as a person. And from then on, that means you're ready for the next step. And like I said, I thought it was a scam 100% for sure. And you guys proved me wrong in every single way. And I literally have just been talking to everybody. Like a bunch of my friends are in just the stagnant thing and the same thing. They're like, well, are you gonna stick with hygiene? Like you've been doing that for a while. And I'm like, I'm not the kind of person to stop. And if you want to keep up and do all these fun things with me, like do it. Like try this out. Even if it doesn't have to be pre-hired, like challenge yourself. And that's like the biggest thing. If you're already at this point watching all the videos, you know you want to do it, so just do it.
I love it. You can tell you've been trained. You've been trained well, Shannon. That's awesome. We're going to end on that. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I know it's helped a lot of people, and I'm looking forward to checking in with you in a few months, because I'm sure you'll be on the promotion track to management, and we'll be maybe getting you back for like some of the expert alumni panels talking about different sales issues. So we'll talk to you then.
Cool.